a happy and prosperous 2025. And to thank you for dedicating your time to the ASK Muntu first episode of this year, 2025. Thank you, Edgar, for hosting me. Much as there are still technical challenges, I trust that within a short period of time, the technical hiccups would be resolved and we can proceed.
Okay, so those ones on the X space, you may not have had general greeting people, but we are working it out. We are working out to make sure that his microphone is unmuted so that we can proceed. Thank you so much, Geno. And without really taking a lot of time, there's quite a number of things that had been said for you to respond to, especially that you are one of the leaders of Alliance for National Transformation, and we are going to range from what has been for ANT in 2024 and what is happening that we are seeing right now. How do we need to prepare ourselves going into 2025, being a campaign year? And we shall also have a conversation about the current court-martial issues, if I would say, or the current situation as far as the Army Court is concerned, but also we shall speak about the Supreme Court. And the technical team on Geno's Twitter side, kindly help unmute that microphone. People would like to listen to him. The person standing in for Edgar currently is Sylvain Gumisiriza, and when Edgar steps in, you will not hear me again. You'll hear then Edgar taking up the responsibility. Now, Geno, kindly speak into what the year has been, what the year was, the 2024 for Alliance for National Transformation. How did you navigate through it? What were the achievements? What were the challenges? And from there, what lessons have you learned and how are you getting prepared for 2025?
2024 wasn't so much different from the years before, more so since 2021 after the general elections. We kept on focused on the programs that we had designed of going down to the districts and the sub-counties where we normally operate from, to the extent it was possible to raise the resources to go to the sub-counties. We managed to go to a number of districts and engage with the population, more so at the sub-counties, and engage with people whom we would attract, those who would be attracted to our objectives, our values, our principles. All the areas we went to, fortunately for us, we never met any resistance. We met a significant number of people who are attracted to our principles. A significant number of them joined. Not so many, and we appreciate that, because the nature of our politics in this country and more or less on this continent, people engage in politics normally around excitement, which is understandable, because politics is an emotional issue. Anywhere you go, whether on the African continent to Europe or America, wherever it is. Now we understand it to be so normal when it comes to elections. So our strategy is attract people who are not involved in politics just because of excitement, but those who believe in building political parties more so like we are trying to build, knowing that the management of society in political terms, in social terms, that these are vehicles of governance. But the only way they can be effective and have impact in changing nations is when you have a core team of people in the party at the different levels, depending on the structures of governance in each country. In our case, of course, our political structures are based alongside more or less the governmental structures, right from the local government at LC 1, LC 2, LC 3, LC 5, then you go to parliament. So our concentration is to attract the people who build the party infrastructure, knowing that the party is the vehicle of governance, that the moment the party takes power, that the only chance it has in transforming a country, if that is its intention, is to have people who think alike and who will be able to act in concert around common programs, common beliefs, common values. We are not satisfied with the pace at which we move, the biggest challenge being resources. But at the same time, when this is our country, we must keep struggling until we see the country go on the right track. To the extent that we're able to go through 2024, we are satisfied with the pace at which we moved, consistent with the resources that we're able to operate within. And that's how we're going to continue. Now, the building period normally is never exciting. The exciting period for the majority of the people is always around elections. Now in 2025, this year which we have gone into, is basically going to be a period of excitement, more or less. So we will have to readjust, do both simultaneously. Continue building the infrastructure, but using a different style, and see the number of things that we want to implement to raise the profile of the party, to build the brand, and to tap into a number of things that would attract those who mostly go into politics in the period of elections. So we'll have to combine both methods. And therefore, this year, it will be different from what it was in 2024. So far, that's what I can brief those who are part of this conversation.
Thank you very much, General. Those who are on Twitter, I notice you have not heard what General was communicating about 2024 because his mic still looks muted. However, he mentioned that 2024 is the year that ANT has been trying to build structures. They've gone through several districts. There has not been a challenge with the message. The message has been accepted. But of course, as a party, the challenge they face is the challenge of finances. So there has not been a possibility of moving to many places as the team would have wished. The bit that at least wherever they went, there has
Okay. Good evening. I hope everyone is okay. If you can hear my sound.
Yes, Edgar, you can speak and proceed with the conversation. We are
Okay.
hearing you.
Okay. Good evening, Uganda. I welcome you to Ask Muntu. First of all, I start by apologizing to each and every one of you for these technical glitches. Yes, technology is trying to be funny, but we're trying our level best to bring the conversation to you. My name is Edgar Matthew Karuhanga. I am a journalist by profession and trade. I serve with Digitalk TV. It's an online television. I am a show host there. And I also work with Debunk Media Initiative, and by the grace of God, I am one of the co-founders there. What Debunk Media Initiative is doing in Uganda is fact checking. So we try to verify information and fake news on social media made on any topic. So that's just a quick recap. And because of time, allow me just continue the conversation from where Sylvain Gumisiriza stopped. General, I salute you. Always a privilege having you here talking to the nation. But then let's continue on the issue of the political party work. You paint a picture of a good year 2024 trying to do political party work, but some Ugandans are overview that these political parties are not relevant today or in the politics of now. Um, if you have been with a leader for 40 years, who some have dubbed dictatorial, and then we are using political parties or relying on political parties to change government or to take power in this country, how feasible are these political parties, the ANTs, the FDCs, and the NUPs? How feasible are they in really driving change in this country? Let's start from there, sir.
Thank you, Edgar. Well, I really don't have a problem with those who are dissatisfied with political parties. Let them concentrate on what they think works best. As those of us who believe that political parties being vehicles of governance, that whether Museveni is in power or out of power, at the end of the day, countries must be governed. And as far as we are concerned in Uganda, the constitution mandates only parties to run governments. So it's not as if when General Museveni is out of the picture, that the country ends. He'll go, but the country remains. And then what? Because if the vehicles of governance are not prepared and not organized, the one thing is for just one autocratic leader to leave power. And then worst case scenario, you find that there's no political vehicle that can hold the country together, put it on track, and then move in the correct direction. Because that can't happen by accident. So what do they want to happen? I have no problem with people who want to operate through different channels, but let them work on those channels. Let them use whatever vehicles they think work. What I disagree with is people who attack what they think doesn't work, but don't organize around anything else. So what do they want us to do now? Or become desperate or frustrated or what? At least people, I mean, people who are not necessarily in the positions, I would understand if they took that stance. But everybody who believes that they are leaders in whatever area, whenever they are in, whether it's in the social, economic, political, cultural, or business environment, they need to know that anything good happens through focus on how to organize to meet the challenges that you are confronted with. And that you must be equal to the task of whatever challenges there are. And when you are equal to those tasks, then you can overcome those challenges and move whatever enterprise you are involved in. The worst case scenario is where people give up. Like I seem to recognize that many people have just given up. Those of us who have leadership skills and the foresight to know that parties are the vehicles of governance, we will continue doing what we do, in spite of people, dismissing it. Because when the right time comes, that's when they recognize what we mean. That for any country to be strong, it must be the strength of that party, the strength of that country, the stability of that country, the forward movement of that country must be rooted in institutions and systems of governance. Those have to be built if a country is going to be that strong as we desire it to be. But sit back and say nothing here works is the worst kind of, mindset to operate from. I don't even understand where it's rooted, where it comes from. We are going to continue building Alliance for National Transformation. Those of us who understand the importance and the core nature of building institutions. We're not against those who are against that. Wish them luck in whatever other area of endeavor they are involved in. We never undermine any other effort in whichever direction it is, ever. Anybody who thinks they're on the right track, go ahead. Because if whatever you're involved in is going to work, it will work. If it won't work, it won't work.
Okay.
But at the end of the day, there is a country of 45 million people, a very fast-growing population. In another 20, 25 years, we are going to be approaching towards 100 million people. People who dismiss parties, do they really understand what it means to have a country of 100 million people without effective vehicles of governance? Do they clearly understand what they are talking about?
General, let's look at these political parties now.
Nevertheless,
Let's look at the challenges of these institutions we're talking about. As we are speaking right now, especially most of the opposition political parties are at a downward trend. I can only say maybe the Alliance for National Transformation is the only one that has not yet been infiltrated. These institutions that are supposed to bring a semblance of democracy seem like if they're not arguing about money, it's an infiltration from something. They say Mr. Museveni is doing this. So at this point in time, how are you preparing yourself for the 2026 elections with just a few months to go, and yet all the political parties that seem to be ready to take power from this country are actually falling or are at their worst?
most people don't understand that the nature, the character, the state of being of the political parties is a reflection of the state of our people as a people. People don't understand that we are products of our society. So if you see people, when people see weakness in political organizations, they need to know that that's a reflection of who we are as a people. So that's why we have to work on who are we? What kind of human beings are we? What kind of society do we intend to build? Who is going to build it to the desirable point? Nobody is going to fall from Mars, to come from China or America or India, wherever they are. It is us who are going to fix the mess in which you find ourselves. We operate in a very hostile environment. But those who are in power, by the nature of their thinking, by the nature of their ideological orientation, are people who look at power as an end in itself. So to them, the moment you have an opportunity to take power, use it to your advantage. Manipulate the population, manipulate all sectors of society, the cultural, the economic, the political, weaken them so that you can find it easier to manipulate them. So should you succeed to manipulate them, so what is the problem? Two dual problem. One, those who are in government will know that if what motivates them is greed, they are bound to do what all autocratic regimes do. They will do like what James 7 is doing. Infiltrate political organizations, infiltrate cultural organizations, infiltrate churches, infiltrate any group that could easily become a center of resistance. Now, if you successfully manipulate them, the problem is that even the population that wants to see a better future also has its weaknesses. Now, the difference that there is between us and most other people, when we know those kinds of weaknesses, we don't give up, we don't get frustrated. We keep looking for the people who are resilient, who recognize the nature of the threat that we have. It's an existential threat. People are looking at the now, because most people are going to be talking about 2026. 2026 is an event, it's going to pass. With the nature of the challenges that we do have, deepening debt, frightening levels of corruption, a growing population, high levels of joblessness, lack of justice, lack of individual freedoms and rights. If there's no core team of people well organized, understanding those challenges, and understand the threat that is, that if a country with all those factors, if it's unlucky, it can slide into becoming a failed state. Now, when there are people who understand that, then nothing, not effort, not time, not resources could impede their effort to keep doing everything humanly possible to restore those challenges, pushing us in the direction that we are heading, and start turning around that situation. We're not a people who are like, ostriches that bury their heads in the sand just because they don't see a threat, but therefore they think that the threat doesn't exist. So 2026 is an event. We are going to build our capabilities, preparing ourselves as if we are going to participate in the 2026 elections. A former Prime Minister of the UK called Harold Wilson once said that the week is too long in politics. Much as we see challenges in our time now, there is a whole year. Nobody can say what is going to happen in this whole 1 year. So we're going to organize, keep on reaching out, mobilizing resources, branding, look for good candidates that can serve this country in the event, the will of God, that NT gets an opportunity to run this country, to position ourselves to take part through that election.
Okay.
Or act in any other way as the situation unfolds, because none of us knows. So Museveni is there manipulating or planning to manipulate the 2026 elections. We are busy building, but none of us knows what is going to happen. None of us knows. He doesn't know, we don't know. But we'll keep organizing as if to participate in that election. Come rain, come shine. And then we will determine what happens down the road as the situation unfolds.
Okay, thank you so much. In fact, you've hinted on a question that was asked by a lady called Owiny-Dollo, who says that why does he keep contesting to know, yet he knows that he will fail. That is what Owiny was asking. But then it brings me to also the issue of these political parties, sir. As we are entering or gearing up for 2026, there are new political formations that are preparing themselves, new political parties. For example, the PFF, they promised us a new political party, and they're in the process of registering it. Then the Eastern Revolutionary Platform, a vision of a gentleman from the East, Bigirwa Moses, he also said it will turn into a political party. That was the same idea that even Puga has with the Democratic Alliance, DA, to turn it into a political party. My first question is, do we need new political parties now? And then the second question would be, sir, why don't you unite? You have a common problem. You are all having the same issues. One would say similar scenarios. Why don't you just unite and then come as a block? One would say you would go further when you are together than in silos.
I hear that argument a lot. Of course, the Muzara thing would be for the opposition parties to unite. But you need to understand I think right now the registered party is about 30, if not 31. But the only commonality is about taking power. Most people even understand that beyond taking of power, we completely have different understanding of how to manage power. Who just simply look at power as an end in itself. Don't think that when a party is not in power, that necessarily is different from one that would be in power, that it would be fighting against. The Ugandans have got a responsibility to listen to all of us first and foremost, and sieve through us, understand what kind of human beings are we as political actors, as leaders. Do we have the capabilities, one, to hold the country together, Two, to move it out of the mess in which it is, move in the direction that people would desire to see it move. Three, the last election, 40% of the population did not vote. So not voting itself is actually voting. Most people don't understand that. You get frustrated and say, we have given up on voting. So what solution do you have? You simply don't give up. That's why people go on markets, to shops, to whatever business enterprises they have on a daily basis. Many don't even get money on a daily basis. Many make losses, but they continue seek for money, because money is at the center of their lives. Farmers and all those people who continue until they retire from this life, looking for money. So but people don't retire from looking for money. Why do they retire from politics? And then say, we have given up on politics. Yet politics is at the core of their living, as long as they're on this side of this life. Anything that goes right or wrong is because of either good governance or bad governance. Even when you go and your business can't work, or you are trying to register, they're asking you for bribes, heavy taxes. That's politics. You go to hospital where you are supposed to get drugs because of the taxes you pay. You can't get the drugs. Someone dies. You send your kids to school after selling all the things that you've sold. They finish university. They can't get a job. That's politics. Someone takes your land. He buys you at the level of investigation, buys you at the level of prosecution, buys you at the level of judgment. Because you don't have money, they have money, they get whatever that is called, whether it is justice or that's politics. So when you give up and you don't participate in the electoral process and don't even have any other alternative, what do you think? We have seen shifts happen. 2021, so shifting happening in Uganda, where a whole region went behind one party, which wasn't even 1 year old. So why do people give up? Suppose the 42% that doesn't vote, 30% of it, the 42% that didn't vote. Suppose 35% now say we are tired. We are going to look for one party or two parties and go behind that party. What impact do people think that would have? People need to wake up. This country is going to fix itself.
Please comment on the issue of do we need new political parties, sir? Because they are mushrooming everywhere in this political season. Do we need them as we speak?
Well, they have got, there is a law that allows whoever raises the necessary signatures, the necessary, criteria that is set for parties. Registering a party is a thing that can be done. The question is, should people follow whatever party is funded? It's up to Ugandan people who need to go look at parties and understand them well. And say, this is not a serious party, that's a serious party. Join the serious parties. Those who are not serious, let them die a natural death. Of course, a lot of them are also simply fronts for the regime, intelligence services. To me, it's not the parties, it's the population.
Okay. Thank you so much, General. In case you have a question.
I don't want to really seem as if there are people who should not be anywhere near politics. The problem in this country, as long as anybody can speak whatever they speak, anybody can go into politics. But as the Bible says, everybody reaps what they sow.
Okay, General. Thank you so much.
If we sow it to people who are the most unserious, that's what we get. Those are the outcomes of whatever we reap.
Okay. Thank you. For those who are on Twitter, in case you have any question, in fact, it's X, in case you have any question for Geno Muntu or anybody who's watching us, feel free to just forward it. You can retweet it, and I'll ask Mr. Gumisiriza Sylvian, if you can, to just share those messages as we continue with the conversation. We're still with Geno Gregory Mugisha Muntu. He's a former presidential aspirant and, of course, president for the Alliance for National Transformation, and also former CDF of this country. Sir, there is something cropping up in our politics today, and it was witnessed recently when the former legislator Mohamed Segirinya passed on, where it feels like it's a politics of extremism, where even in death, people cannot forge a unity to send off their comrade in a decent manner. And this has fueled a lot of contestation that how is it that we are so divided to a point that you cannot listen to each other. You would rather have family members or children of the deceased miss even their father's funeral just because of politics. How sad do we deal with this antagonism, this hate that is cropping up, sir? I don't know if that's the right word. I think hate is an overstatement. But that antagonism, sir, how do we deal with it come 2025 and beyond?
Must recognize as a society that we have really degenerated. And therefore understand that the only way we can turn around our society, our country, is to go back to the roots, values, basically values, traditional values, cultural values, religious values. I mean, disagreements are normal, but it's how you manage the disagreements. And the manner of handling disagreements is a reflection of what level that society has reached. And I think we have gone down really to the gutters almost. So we need to recognize that and deal with it. It's not going to evaporate by itself. You know, the nature of the leaders we choose to promote is what will reflect what we are as a people, what values we espouse. I mean, this is not rocket science. Problem is the population seems not to want to take responsibility. They keep throwing it at us as politicians, as if we're the ones who promote ourselves. I mean, they're the ones who promote us. So they should just simply take responsibility for, to a large extent, for who we are as leaders. Because you can imagine, if we as politicians recognize that, you know, we are operating in a society that really desires to go by certain values. And if you act in ways that conflict with the expectations of the population, you are done. We will all change. But if we think that that's what the population likes, maybe that's what excites the population. Except people who are deeply rooted in values. Those are the ones who are not going to sway into the direction of what people get excited about. So the population has the responsibility, in as far as I'm concerned. You should not just simply go silent and start attacking and abusing and criticizing and all that as if they're not part and parcel of the mess. They are the root of the mess.
Everybody, why is it that it all goes back to us? I remember Dr. Besigye one time called Ugandans fools. He said they are basiru. Ugandans are fools. Now you're also bringing it back to us. I've had Chagulanyi also say the same thing. I've had Mr. Museveni also say the same thing. What is it that
Other
really?
than in cases where processes are manipulated, and I really must say that the number of processes which are manipulated. But look, even in situations where they are not manipulated, look at leaders. You see 3 or 5 members of parliament who are voted for. What do they reflect? You know, they are voted for by people on whatever interest they think they are going to serve.
Okay. I hope we are not part of those fools that people are saying, oh, part of those Ugandans. But, sir, let's also talk about the foreign legislator, because this is your first Ask Muntu for this year. I want to hear your sentiment or what you think about Segirinya Mohammed, a gentleman who has risen from what you may call inferiority in society to those high, places to become even a legislator in the land. But this man, who generous as he was, one would say did not die in a very good manner, according to the things he has been through. He's been through, incarcerated a couple of times. What do you think about Honorable Segirinya Mohammed? I don't know if it's the network, Geno, if you can hear me. Okay. As we wait for Mr. Ojeno Mugisha Muntu to reconnect, I just want to tell you that this is Ask Muntu, and my name is Edgar Matthew Karuhanga. We get to ask Jeno every particular month to find out his sentiments on the country and how it's going, and of course to devise solutions that will help Uganda be a better place amidst the controversies that we have, the different issues that continue to crop up in the country. It is really, really always a privilege to listen in from him to paint a picture for us on what he thinks or where he thinks the country can go. As we wait for him to reconnect, just a few headlines today. We have the Parliament, in fact, a committee from Parliament commissioned by the Deputy Speaker of Parliament, that is Thomas Tayebwa, went to see Dr. Kizza Besigye today to check on him, to just find out how he is. And yes, we were there as Digitalk TV, by the way, in the morning, and we were able to just catch a glimpse of the legislators going in to check on this great man of the land. They say he is, in there, hanging in there, and of course, there are some recommendations that were made, and of course, they will be tabled in Parliament. That is next week, to really devise solutions as to what they can do for the betterment of Dr. Kizza Besigye. For those who don't know, Kizza Besigye was abducted last year in November from Nairobi, where he had gone to attend a book launch of Martha Karua. But unfortunately, he was abducted and whisked back to Uganda, where he is now, facing charges in the General Court Martial. And that's the thing that I also wanted to ask General Mugisha Muntu, and I hope to ask him when he is back. What does he really think about Dr. Besigye being incarcerated? And political parties are gearing up really for political seasons. Everybody feels like this is business as usual, but there is a man who has said he does not believe that elections will change this country. And yet he is behind bars and he's being charged with mobilizing resources to change power, but also, possession of weapons. They say they found him with a couple of guns. And recently, almost recent, is actually another charge that was added on his charge, that is a treachery, and another private, in fact, is a captain from the Uganda People's Defense Forces, that is Captain Dennis Ola, was added to that particular case. So Dr. Kizza Besigye, as we speak, is still battling those cases. His case was adjourned to next month, and that's when we are going to be hearing in from. But some of the lawyers, all the lawyers of Dr. Kizza Besigye, have been arguing on a couple of fronts here and there, saying jurisdiction case, and how can you really pick Dr. Besigye from Kenya and then charge him from here for possessing weapons? How about the jurisdiction? Isn't he supposed to be charged in Kenyan courts? Then, of course, the defense was also bringing out an angle saying that, hey, this gentleman, as you're charging him, is he actually even supposed to be charged in this general court martial? And of course, those are some of the things that many of the defense lawyers, because Dr. Kizza Besigye actually has more than 40 lawyers on his defense for this particular case. Now, speaking of Dr. Kizza Besigye's lawyers, Counsel Aaron Kizza, one of his lead counsels, is actually incarcerated as we speak. He is at Kitala Remand Prison, serving a sentence of 9 months that was given to him by the General Court Martial. They say he was in contempt of court. And of course, this comes at a time when this counsel was in the law setting, they say, banging the tables, trying the level best to defend Dr. Kizza Besigye, but the General Court Martial did not deem it actually decent, or he was not doing this in the right manner. So as we speak, Counsel Aaron Kizza is behind bars and he's battling, he's serving his sentence. In fact, it's already done and dusted. Some of his lawyers tried to raise some, arguments here and there, but the General Court Martial, after it decided, nothing is being taken behind or taken back by this General Court Martial. And then that brings us to one of the sentiments that some Ugandans have, that the General Court Martial is being used as a tool to, scorn, to persecute various Ugandans. And there is also a case that is pending judgment in the Supreme Court for trying civilians in the General Court Martial. That is a case by Karuhanga. Yes, so in fact, the Supreme Court confirmed to us today that they will be making a verdict on the 31st day of January this month. So all of us are waiting to see what is going to be the decision by the Supreme Court. Remember, the Supreme Court is the court that rules the land. So we will ask ourselves, really, what is it going to rule in this particular case? Can civilians be tried in the General Court Martial? So we wait to see that, but that's something that has been happening. And I want to paint a picture. It's not only Dr. Besigye that has been incarcerated for that long. There are a couple of people that have actually been incarcerated. The NUP members, you remember that some of the members that were arrested in 2020 from Kalangala were charged in the General Court Martial. The 37 members of the Forum for Democratic Change that were also whisked or abducted from Kenya are also appearing in the General Court Martial. So Ugandans are still saying, why is it that many of these people are appearing in the General Court Martial? Then as General will reconnect with us, I also want maybe to ask him the roadmap for the political parties. In fact, before we ask the roadmap, there are also some tweets and messages that have been going on by the CDF of this country, that is General Muhoozi Kainerugaba, who also that was as the presidential advisor on special operations, and also the First Son. The First Son, before deactivating his Twitter, he was making a couple of remarks, some fueling a bit of rage and hate in the country, as he promised to hang Dr. Besigye on Heroes Day. And then he retook his word and said, in fact, they are bringing it earlier to hang him in May. He has also made a couple of remarks over Kyagulanyi Robert Sentamu Bobi Wine, as how he is going to behead him, and some of these sentiments here and there. Although officially he denies and says that these things that are on X are actually personal sentiments, but of course the questions Ugandans have is, how do we discern the CDF but also the special operations, advisor. How do we discern the words, and where is the thin line? Because as you're joking, there is some people are taking these threats not lightly. So I also wanted to ask General Muntu about the character of this gentleman, and of course the general military ahead of the elections in 2026. Remember, in 2020, we have a couple of Ugandans that were murdered, that lost their lives. So all these things, I wanted to just ask General Mugisha Muntu to just paint a picture for where he thinks Uganda is going as we speak today. Of course, many of the opposition political players are continuing to be divided as they have been over time, and many Ugandans are asking, are they for Ugandans or are they for themselves? So those are some of the issues that we were going to ask General Mugisha Muntu. I'm hoping that he can, rejoin. But in case anybody also wants to share with us, feel free to unmute and share with the people to listen in on what you think, or how you think the political season is going to go come 2025. In fact, we're already in the political season, so politics is already metamorphosing around. So what do you think about that? I can hear one or two messages or three, and if General is not here, then we can call it an evening Uganda. So anybody, feel free to unmute, and you can speak to Ugandans to listen. Manzi, are you saying something? Okay, happy to hear from you, Manzi. Okay, we can proceed with the space. By the time we disconnected, we were coming into the issue of General of Kano, Dr. Kiza Besigye, being tried in the General Court Martial. First, as the political players are gearing up for the 2026 elections and acting as business as usual, there is a legendary opposition leader and, of course, freedom fighter in this country battling and behind bars, many saying that he's experiencing persecution in the General Court Martial. General Mugisha Muntu, what do you think about the incarceration of Dr. Kiza Besigye? And why is it that some Ugandans are acting, or political players are acting as business as usual, preparing for elections? And of course, a man who has been open to say that he's not interested or he does not think elections can do anything is in prison. What do you think about Dr. Kiza Besigye, sir? election where this gentleman has taken part 4 times. Okay, I was saying.
Two, also conditions are different countries. 3, there are struggles which take a shorter time. There are those which take a longer time. So if a struggle takes longer than the people anticipated that it would take, you don't give up. You fight it. You never know what is going to happen. If the Supreme Court has got judges who have got the guts to stand their ground and interpret the law correctly, that would be a significant advance. Then there are those who are going to continue fighting on the different fronts. There are those who believe elections work. They'll continue organizing on that front. There are those who believe in civil disobedience. I don't see any problem for those who believe in civil disobedience to organize on that front. So whatever front anybody feels that they're inclined to operate on, let them go ahead. What I don't agree with at all, and I'm becoming increasingly impatient with people who believe or have inclination on fighting one front, and rather than focus all their energies, resources, and time on that front, and almost forget that any other front, exists. But also attack other fronts which they think that they won't work. Why would you have to do that? Concentrate on the front which you think works. Don't pay attention to the front which you think doesn't work. There are those who believe it will work. And then let time resolve that. Because whatever is going to work will work. Whatever won't work. So when you generate strife amongst yourselves, fighting on one side, trying to resolve a problem, it doesn't make sense to me. From a strategic perspective, from an organizational perspective, it doesn't make sense to me. I've made this point for the last 10, 15, 20 years. And I simply can't understand how anybody can even... I simply, but we are different people. We understand strategy different. We understand organizational aspects of struggle differently. So maybe I shouldn't even be surprised. I know countries where even in one organization, you find that they have operated on different fronts. If I may use example of ANC in South Africa. They had Mkuta was Swiss, they were fighting, they had weapons. They were on the streets demonstrating. They were operating on the diplomatic front and also building the party at the same time, preparing themselves in readiness for in the event that there will be election, that they participate. All those 4, there was no conflict. Because fortunately for them, they had leaders who were mature, who were far-looking, and who understood what the struggle is about. Problem is, we just have all nature of people who pop up and just mess up the operational environment in a country, as if what the regime is doing against us is not in itself bad enough. They will do things in such a manner that even adds more fuel to gives ammunition to the enemy.
I feel I even see your agitation and frustration when you talk about that issue. But do you also think the Supreme Court is going to, make a verdict that will really change something? Why I ask this is that many Ugandans have been in contention generally with the judiciary of the country and how it, gives or administers justice in various political cases. And having as Chief Justice Alphonse Owiny-Dollo, who is a former lawyer of Mr. Museveni, do you think that there is something you're going to get in the Michael Kabaziguruka case of trying civilians in the general court martial?
I don't know. I don't want to speculate. And how many days are left? 6, 7 days? Let's wait and see what the outcomes are. If the outcomes are good on the side of justice, perfect. We thank God for it. We thank those who have made that decision. We continue moving.
But also,
make a judgment that is inconsistent with the rights and freedoms of the people, we continue struggling. That's what struggles are all about. I just mentioned the South African ANC. How many years did the ANC? 50 years, 60 years, 70 years or something.
Okay, General, we have also various Ugandans have also talked about this issue of Mr. Muhoozi being the CDF of the country. Muhoozi has made a couple of remarks on Dr. Kizza Besigye, some that I don't even want to bring back, but I'll just highlight on one where he promised or committed to hang him. And of course, many of these people have said that this is the sentiment of the General Court Martial. What do you think about these assertions that are made by a man who has power, because he is the CDF in the country, and he says these things? Some have said we can just leave them to just not give them a lot of emphasis, but he is still a CDF and he also has the power, sir. What do you think about his remarks that he continues to make?
I no longer pay attention to whatever General Muhoozi says or whatever he doesn't say. One, all the things happening around him is a reflection of the nature of a banana republic that we have become as a country, first and foremost. That's what everybody needs to recognize. This can't happen in a country that is not a banana republic. And two, I don't look at General Muhoozi. I look at the one who appointed him, because the commander-in-chief, who is the president, is the one who has got ultimate responsibility to discipline the CDF. CDF can't discipline those below him. But if you have a CDF who runs rogue, then the responsibility no longer lies with the CDF, it lies with the commander-in-chief. So people are talking about Muhoozi, General Muhoozi, General Muhoozi, General Muhoozi. They should be talking about General Museveni.
Okay, General, how prepared are you for the elections come this season? Because every time there are elections in the country, it's a bit of a very volatile time where arrests can happen, deaths can happen, disappearances happen. As a politicians and a political player, a firm political player of the Alliance for National Transformation, how are you preparing to fight against the violence? Do you even anticipate violence come this particular electoral cycle?
We hope for the best, but must also be prepared for the worst. I mean, to go with the territory. One thing I don't know, I never want to speculate. Two, I'm not someone who is, looks at the conditions or the circumstances within which you operate and let it determine my viewpoint, what I think the future is going to be. There are those who want to manipulate power to their advantage. Our role is to ensure that we deter them from it. The only way we can do that is continue organizing ourselves. How the situation unfolds, none of us can determine. Not General Museveni, not us. He will do what he wants to do to hang on to power. We must do what we need to do to get him out of power, period.
Okay, as the Alliance for National Transformation, you're going to do everything you can to take him out of power. But one would ask
Yes.
the how. The how.
Continue convincing Ugandans, because the main weapon of ousting Museveni is the Ugandans. For example, we are now going to an election period. If people want to organize ourselves to a point where we are strong enough to take advantage of the situation which is largely in our favor from a strategic point of view, because at a strategic point of view, Museveni is at his weakest, but he's strong at the operational tactical level. If we are going to take advantage of the strategic weakness that he is operating at, we need resources, human as well as financial. To the extent that we're able to get that is to the extent to which we're able to organize ourselves and overwhelm him. Like, if people have given up and said nothing can work, so what should we do? We will keep organizing to the extent that we are able. We dedicate our time, we dedicate our effort, we dedicate our resources. We cannot just give a bunch of idiots to run a country as if they're running a home.
But maybe let's fast.
There may be those who want to be like, to do that. That's their business. It's a choice.
Let's also try to maybe debunk that narrative that the bunch of idiots or Ugandans actually do not like this. It feels like Mr. Museveni is liked in the entire nation. Why I say this, when you look at the parliamentarians, this man has a nationalistic outlook for his members of parliament. You'll find members of parliament from every region. This gentleman has leaders from ground, around 12 leaders in every community or parish. But the opposition does not even have sometimes flag bearers in some constituencies. Can we say that maybe Uganda don't trust you?
That is organizational. It requires resources to build down at the grassroots level. So at the end of the day, the Ugandans must determine which direction do they want to go. Look at Parliament. The other day, I saw a tweet when they invited General Moses to go there. He said he's going to arrest them.
Yes.
And then all Ugandans are there, hanging on by breath, hoping that something good or right has happened, without necessarily participating in ensuring that what needs to happen happens. We'll keep fighting. The only thing I know for sure, however few we might be, we are people who believe that as a people, we deserve better. And that it is inherent in us as a people to determine the future that we want to shape. We will keep at it. Those who join will join. Those who don't join, we are not going to quarrel with them. One thing we are sure that change is always a constant. Happens all the time. And we know that it's going to happen inevitably in this country. So what we are going to keep focused on is to organize ourselves, as the English say, that success comes when opportunity meets with preparation. Our role is to continue preparing until that preparation will meet with that opportunity. And then people will see what the people who are focused, who are disciplined, who are resilient can do in a country. Nothing is going to transform that.
Thank you, General. You're playing the long game, and of course, that's what many wise men do. Thank you so much, General. In just a few minutes, like 3 to 5, please give us your parting shots and your closing remarks, as you also just paint a way forward for 2025 in the Alliance for National Transformation.
Thank you, Edgar, for hosting me. I'd like to apologize to all people who hung on to the conversation because of the technical glitches that we have faced today. Thank you for hanging on. This is our country. We have an existential threat. When you look at all things which are happening, nobody is going to fix these problems. We have to fix them ourselves. We must keep organizing around what we believe works. But desist from attacking any other method which we may, for whatever reasons, think that doesn't work. That is the biggest weakness I have seen in the opposition for the longest time. I can't understand why we can't overcome that as leaders. What you think works. Collaborate effort. What you think may not work, even if you don't participate, don't denounce it. Until what works, works. Because at some point, one thing works, or a combination of one or two. That is going to happen in this country.
Okay. Thank you so much, General Gregory Mugisha Muntu. He is the former CDF of Uganda, People's Defense Forces, but also he's the former presidential candidate and aspirant, and also former presidential flag bearer for the Alliance for National Transformation. It's always a privilege having you and hosting you, sir. It's really a privilege for me. Thank you so much. And for our viewers, thank you so much for tuning in from the time we started. We really apologize once again for the technical glitches here and there. We are trying our level best to bring you a better broadcast come next time as we host the good general. From the entire team, I'll ask that may God bless you. Have a good evening. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. My name is Edgar Matthew Karuhanga.